Welcome back to Heartland Mamas. I'm Murray Briel.
And I'm Heidi Henry, coming to you from our two separate studios at the edge of the Great Red Divide. And today I'm going to tell you all about third parties and why it's not a good idea at this time in our history. But Murray, first I'm going to tell everybody to find us at heartlandmamas.com on all broadcast platforms for like Stitcher
Podcast?
and for podcasts. Sorry, my brain is stopping. I'm thinking about our show and I'm so excited. At Dumbcast USA.
This is a really cool show.
And YouTube if you want to see our faces. I got a lot of sun yesterday, so. Okay.
Yeah, so did I.
So, Murray, when we were talking about what to do today, we were talking about a certain tweet that came up. So do you want to read that tweet verbatim? Because this is what inspired today's show.
Yes. So the delightful president,
Orange Caligula,
called ruler of the universe, was tweeting today about how California has now sent out vote-by-mail applications to all of their citizens, and in a long string of tweets. Now, I don't follow him, but I couldn't help. I do pop in periodically. And he says, living in the state, no matter who they are or how they got there, will get one. Talking about the vote-by-mail application.
Talking about the citizens of the United States, how they got there. I told you, Murray, some of my relatives snuck into this country. No matter who they are.
No matter who they are, how they got there, they'll get one.
Yep.
And that will be followed up with professionals telling all these people, many of whom have never even thought about voting before, how and for whom to vote. It will be a rigged election. So before we delve in, I would just like to point out the idiocy of
all
the
of
words from Herr Führer. Yes, all of it. But an election is between different people.
Yes.
To represent a group of people. And during that time, you talk about who you are, what you believe, and what you want to accomplish. Mm-hmm. And those that support you do the same thing. They go out and talk to who they want to believe and what they want to accomplish.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So that is exactly the premise and idea of an election, and he is challenging that. Literally, okay, I know it's just stupidly ridiculous for him to say, no matter who they are, how they got there, they get the chance.
No matter how they became a citizen, how many generations they've been here, if they're first-generation citizens, that's wrong, In his book, if you're not going to vote for him, you're wrong,
And that will be followed up with professionals telling all these people, many of whom have never even thought about voting before, who to vote for. That's called advertising, campaigning, rallies, surrogates. That's what you do every day. And the fact that it's projection, and it's insane to me.
Well, the thing is that as somebody who has voted every election since my first election when I turned 18, and the first election I voted in, I remember walking into the polling place having just heard on the radio a story about people being gunned down waiting in line to vote in an election in Haiti, and thinking about how lucky I was. I was walking in with my mom for my first time to vote. How lucky I was to be able to vote freely in this country without anybody gunning me down, right? We've had that problem in the past, especially after the Civil War. It was very bad for people of color to go and vote. Lots of litmus tests and a lot of tests set up for failure. And we are so lucky that when we include all of us in the voice of democracy, that we can have the democracy we want. So yes, let's invite people that have never voted before, that have never thought about voting before because they work, because they have no transportation, because they're disabled. Is to get everybody. No, Marie, that's
as possible.
The goal of the Democratic Party is to get everybody out. The goal of the Republican Party is to suppress the vote, and we've seen this completely since the 1940s.
Well, speaking of oppressing the vote, look at what happened in Wisconsin
Oh my
just in their
God.
most recent primary. They wanted a conservative justice on
Yeah.
the court,
Right.
and they pushed to, during the middle of a pandemic, have voting anyway, not suspended, not in person, not postponed. They went through and did it anyway. The conservative court did.
Yep.
Hundreds of people contracted a virus because of it. And, so that is just the most recent example. And if we look at Wisconsin, okay, Wisconsin was a battleground state. And
Right.
regardless of what Clinton did or didn't do or how her messaging was, we know she had many, many problems. We know people were not all that excited to begin with.
We also know that she won the general election by more than 3 million popular votes. We know that she, as flawed candidate as people say she still won the damn election. She did not win the Electoral College. So let's be really clear on that. You can say anything you want about Hillary Clinton, but she legit won by the largest margin of anybody ever in the popular vote. And that's a fact.
And you're right. But unfortunately, the system that we have requires we follow this antiquated method, which is the Electoral College.
Which was
so
to protect
you were
slave
talking about
states.
before, but she lost 10 votes in Wisconsin, 10 electoral votes
Yeah.
in Wisconsin, and she lost those on 22,000 votes.
22,000 votes.
22,000 votes. Lost 10 electoral college votes.
Yeah.
And you want to know what's even more frustrating than that? Is that Johnson, the Libertarian candidate, had 106,674 votes. He had 5 times the number of votes that was needed for Hillary to have won. So let's look at some other states, because you said it. She won the popular vote. Unfortunately, no matter who, blame whatever you want. We are not advocating.
We're not redoing 2016, people. We're just not doing it.
Letting you know where our numbers are. So
well,
then
yeah,
another state that was really close was Pennsylvania.
Right.
And that's 20 electoral votes, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So 20 electoral votes for Pennsylvania. Oh, she was 44,000 votes off from winning.
44,000.
Sounds like a lot. 44,000. But not when you consider that Trump had 2,971,000 rough estimate, and she had 2,930,000.
It's a very close election.
It's a very close number, and guess how many our friend Mr. Johnson got?
How many?
He got 3 times that at 146,715.
And yet, very few people, because I know people that voted for Gary Johnson, and the thing that astounds me about people who voted for him, that I know, even people who call themselves a libertarian, don't understand what libertarianism is. They don't know anything about him at all. They just didn't want to vote for Clinton or Trump. So that's why they voted for him. And the same with Jill Stein. And my response to that is, why would you vote for somebody or for an ideology you do not understand? And then when I explain it to you, you don't want any part of. To me, it's just mind-numbing stupidity. So...
Funny. Well, and I think a part of it is libertarian ideology is not conceptually out of whack. It's not.
Murray, it would have worked during the Revolutionary War days. It would have worked in the really early years of our country. But people are not altruistic. Like, we live in a Kardashian society. If people actually think that everybody's going to chip in X amount of dollars, not pay taxes, but chip in X amount of dollars so that their roads can be plowed, so that their fire can be put out, so that their kids can go to school, you are sadly mistaken. Nobody's going to do it. Nobody. And those that do it want to make all the rules then. This is the curriculum we use. This is the fire hoses we use. This is the snow plows we use, and we buy it from this guy. Because you can't have libertarianism without capitalism. Period. It doesn't work. So.
Well, absolutely. But I think you hit it on the head. I think you really nailed it right there, Heidi. when we talk about, okay, just for our viewers who, I know you all know what libertarianism, but I'm just going to recount a conversation that I've had with someone who explained it to me like this. I was explaining how libertarianism really doesn't work right now. It's not makes much sense. And like Heidi had mentioned, well, why do we have to follow laws? And I said, well, how would you enforce laws? Let's say someone broke in and stole something. They don't want police. There'd be an adjudicator, a peace officer type person with no military authority, no training like we currently
You'd have Andy Griffith would show up at your door.
Yeah. And so I'm like, well, if you think into that, the litany of problems that could come from that are exponential. Like really prejudice, bias, who that person is getting paid by. So then we talked, he said, well, I would much rather give $100,000 to my school district and let them do something with that money than give the government $100,000 and have them put it here and there and there. And I said, okay. I said, well, that's really interesting. So you explain to me how this is going to work, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so as we're talking, he's like, well, then everyone would give. Like, I could give more money to charities. I could give more money to support nonprofits if I wasn't paying taxes. Then my money goes where I want it to go. So in this whole conversation, we're hearing I. Me, absolutely. And the Kardashians are I.
You don't hear about the Kardashian charity arm, do you? At all? I'm sure there is one because it's a great tax write-off, but for all intent and purpose, it doesn't exist except for a tax write-off, and that's the truth of these things. Libertarianism works when everybody is in an altruistic frame of mind. Right now, we can't even get into a frame of mind that agrees that masks prevent the spread of a terrible virus. Why in the world?
That's exactly right. The biggest argument right now against libertarianism is that libertarians believe people will do the right things without someone telling them.
Oh, sure they will.
Yeah. And those ones advocating it, sure they wouldn't make any influence toward others at all. But the mask debate is right there. We have seen it countless times. It is not to protect you. It is to protect others. It is one tiny action that you can take that can be done for free and respect.
Yep.
And we are not able to do that because someone is telling us to do it. So your argument that I'm going to do the right thing is to wear the mask.
Right.
Like Representative Darren Bailey.
Yeah.
He's not going to wear the mask on principle. Stupid principle because someone's telling you to do what is the right thing.
To protect society.
So if nobody's telling you, would you really do it? No. You wouldn't.
No.
You don't whiny bitch.
No.
Drives me nuts.
In the world full of Kardashians, no. It will never happen. And we've been so trained, so conditioned through reality TV to be about me, I, whatever, that we don't think about our fellow man. There is no brotherly love left in the United States. And Murray, furthermore, I'm going to say, there's a few things that I've said all along. You're never going to convince a libertarian to change their mind until their roads aren't plowed and nobody's coming, their house is on fire and nobody's coming, until the school is starting and the schools are not funded. Everybody's a libertarian until they realize it doesn't work. It just doesn't. It might work in some little commune area, but it does not work on
a large scale.
No, it can't. There's too many people, and too many people who have been trained to think independently, not to think for the greater good. And that's
Absolutely.
Where we are. We're at that juncture of.
I mean, Heidi, you just said something that sparked something. Even down to regardless of political rules, regardless of legislative, regardless of whatever, Each societal structure has its own rules.
Right.
Each family has its own rules.
Oh, yeah.
At a fundamental emotional level, libertarianism doesn't work. Because if it's all about what I want, my dishes would never be done, my kids would be naked, and, I don't know. I mean, at
There'd
any
be no
level, this
environmental
doesn't
law.
work.
There'd be
No.
animal preservation species law. There'd be no rules at slaughter plants. They could just mow them down with a machine gun.
That's not saying that successful folks or regular folks can't, give their time and energy and pooling of resources to create solutions. We're seeing this during the COVID pandemic.
Right.
We're seeing, retail. We're seeing all these different aspects of our government, whether it's capitalists or big companies, small companies, governments, state, local, all coming together and working toward a greater good, which is wonderful. Right. So in theory, I'm seeing more libertarians pop up and go, well, if they didn't have to pay taxes, they could do so much more.
They would just buy a bigger car. Come on, let's be truthful here.
Yeah. So it is possible, but you need to have some governance. You need to have some guiding principles. Mm-hmm. You can't not. And so then we've got all these other folks, okay? Yes, the libertarians, we're right. I don't think we're going to get too many libertarians to be able to vote Democratic, especially with Joe. But what about, take a look at Florida, okay? Hillary lost by 112,000 votes.
Yeah.
Okay? That is not very much at all.
Nope.
And Florida has 29 electoral votes.
Yep.
Okay. So she lost by, almost 400,000 people, 3 times as many, voted for a third party. Jill Stein. Johnson got 200,000 of those votes. So what do? We know we're not going to get the Trumpers, right? We're going to get the Dems out. Hopefully they're going to come out. If we look at Texas and how they flooded and waited even with polls being closed, and Florida and how so many have come out, right, during Super Tuesday.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we have this huge faction of folks who voted for things that helped put us where we are.
Well, that's the problem. Like I said, when I talk to people who voted for one of the third-party candidates, and Murray, I'm a big fan of choice in candidates. We started our Democratic primary season. We had 28 at one point, different candidates to choose from. Any of them, except for Tulsi Gabbard, would have made an excellent president. Any of them.
Or Mike Bloomberg.
Okay, he was not my favorite either. But I want people to understand that we will never have a viable third-party system unless you elect a Democrat, because Democrats are just stupid enough to go, third party? Sure, let's do that. Let's invite everybody in because we're the party of everyone, right? But if you vote
be okay with a third party.
Yeah.
I think, it's the two-party system is what you've mentioned before, how we have a parliamentary voting system that started 40 years ago. We vote as a block now because of the two-party system.
Right.
It has caused so much division and rancor. But I'm going to tell our listeners, it is not the fucking time.
No.
It is not the time.
It's not the time.
Go for that third-party vote. And here's why. Because you don't have the resources, you don't have the infrastructure, and you sure as hell don't have the votes right now.
No.
So all you're doing is pissing it away. Here's what you do. We build that. We work toward that. We create that and have a base for that. Get the laws changed to incorporate that in every state. But if you're doing this, people are like, I'm voting for who I want. You're right, God, I want you to. But what you're also doing is you are pushing your goal of having a third party further away.
Exactly.
Your candidate is never gonna win.
I see
where we are now.
I see this a lot in the Bernie or Bust crew, and the heated argument. One of the Our Revolution chat boards, which I'm part of, because I was endorsed by some of the local Our Revolution, but couldn't be endorsed by the national Our Revolution, even though I'm a hardcore progressive, not a Bernie supporter, but I'm a hardcore progressive, because I didn't think Bernie Sanders should be able should be the keynote speaker at a women's event, period. So they said,
you and I,
yeah,
a lot of those Bernie supporters, and he did bring a lot of people out in 16.
Yeah.
And got a lot of people engaged and excited. But he's never been a Democrat. He's an independent.
Right.
And I think those who think that they're libertarian went for him. And we wouldn't have gotten those votes anyway. Think about his policies. Oh, no, I'm wrong. I'm totally wrong.
The problem with...
Where are they going to go?
Well, they're not. They're going to sit it out, because this was the conversation we had, is that without him, there's nothing, or Biden has to pick him as his VP. Well, Biden promised a woman, and he better deliver on that. I'm warning you, Joe.
And I want a woman of color.
It just has to be female. I don't care, because all of the people he's vetting are all eminently qualified and better than Mike Pence. But I
totally agree. I'm sorry. It is.
Well, this is
so white.
I know this is not the time for that argument. We'll do a show on VP picks here coming up. But my thing on this is that we are at the cornerstone of democracy, or the intersection of democracy and authoritarianism.
Authoritarianism.
We are going to either vote to save our democracy, or we're going to vote to have a king, and that's going to be Trump. Literally, anytime you don't vote for the Democrat in this election, that is what you're voting for. And I listen, Joe Biden was not my candidate. I like Joe, wasn't my candidate. We were both, Marie and I were Warren supporters, and Marie was leaning toward Yang for a while. There were so many good candidates to choose from. It was so wonderful to go. For me, I went to a lot of their major events and listened to them all speak in Iowa, and I just kept going, oh, this is awesome, so many choices. But in the end, the people picked Biden. It wasn't a DNC end around. Bernie was not, and has never been a Democrat, so yeah, the DNC is not going to support him, but it's like, I don't support Republicans because I'm a Democrat, right? That's how I look at it. That's how the DNC is going to look at it as well. He's an independent. The people picked Biden. The people did. Not me, not Marie, maybe not you.
And for whatever reason it is, they picked Biden.
I think it's for security and saneness. I think because he shows the sanity of the Obama years to the electorate, and that's why they picked him. You and I sat there in the caucuses, and I watched people tell me all the reasons why they should vote for a woman, and then go sit down with the Biden crew, because that is stability for them. That's why he got picked. So now, how
do you do? Okay, I know we talk about this, but we've got this big chunk of folks who vote, and let's go back to Trump's tweet, giving people who never thought about voting before information. God forbid.
God bless you. Come in and vote. Right.
And I doesn't like that because he's under the myth that it'll do all this stuff, and he doesn't want more people to vote. Blah 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 blah.
Because
whatever.
if more people vote, Republicans will never win again, because it's the people. It's the people.
But here's the thing: how do we? We know that those Republicans are not going to change over. We know those one-issue folks are not going to. We know he has a solid 38 to 36% of unwavering loyalty.
Right.
We're not going to swing those middle Republicans.
No.
And
they're not middle. They're hard over righties.
And but we're not going to. No, I'm talking the middle ones. That chunk that isn't isn't Joe all the way.
Yeah.
And how are we going to get between Johnson and all the independents, and how are we going to get that 125,000 votes in Florida? Where are they going to come from? Because it's got to be us, you and I, and Tim and Shira, and it's
Shira.
gotta be all.
Shira will do it.
I couldn't come up with any names. Sorry, but it's got to be all of us on us to make sure that we explain. We're not saying a third party isn't right. Hell, we'll help you out in the future, but it's not right now. How do we educate and explain and, stop talking to the crazy right-wing nutters? They're never going anywhere.
And stop talking to the bus crews.
That isn't real. We need to help them understand that the Libertarian Party is not what they think it is.
Well, and I don't even think that we need to do that. I think what we need to explain to people is we are literally going to we're at a mandate right now. We're either going to save this country or we're going to throw it away. Because
that argument doesn't hold water. People just don't buy that argument. I've had it. And I will tell you, they are.
So maybe you need to walk them through to a conclusion. So you walk them through the conclusion, or through the analogy. There's no infrastructure in place for a third party. So you walk them through that process. If they vote for Jo Jorgensen, who is the candidate, you walk them through that process. They give their vote to her, and it doesn't go to Biden. It's essentially a vote for Trump, and he wins again. And have them think for a moment, picture for a moment what the country looks like with another 4 years of Bill Barr, of Lindsey Graham, of Mitch McConnell, of...
somehow that doesn't bother a lot of these folks.
Really? Because when you show them that, the multi-trillion-dollar CARES Act, where the money went straight to the top and very little went down to the people that needed it. When you show them 100,000, by Election Day will be 250 to 300,000 people dead from COVID-19. When you talk about the reality, the destroyed economy, 44% of people making under $40,000 a year now unemployed, possibly permanently. The amount of bankruptcies, foreclosures, evictions are going to skyrocket over the summer and into the fall. These are Trump's base. His base are, besides his 1%ers, which are a small amount, most of his base are in the under $40,000 category. Those are the people that are going to be hit the hardest with death, sickness, bankruptcy, eviction, unemployment.
And they'll still vote for him.
Well, because they're authoritarianism.
I say forget them. No offense. I say forget them.
We don't need to talk to them.
Voters, no, it's a waste of time.
It is.
We need to get these numbers out. We need to commit to getting it out. We need to start looking at it in a different perspective. Like Heidi just said, talk about how the system isn't in place. If you want to change the system, you have to do it. And yes, you're frustrated, but Heidi's right along those lines. And I guess, write a lot of postcards and knock a lot of doors, hopefully.
Well, I don't know if we're going to be able to knock doors or have parades this year. It's going to be really dicey. If you're in a state like Indiana or Missouri that's wide open, or Iowa or Wisconsin, go knock doors. Wear your mask, use hand sanitizer, be careful. Those places you can do it. I don't see that being a norm here in Illinois. Possibly the Republicans will be out knocking doors. I don't know. And then if they do, we should follow suit. I hate to do anything that they do. But the people that I think you have to start teaching people to plan past the moment. We're so in the moment right now, and we always think about being in the moment and ourselves right now, what we need. And that's part of this me, I. Yeah, Kardashian attitude.
Reactionary.
You have to start thinking out. When I ran for office, the thing I kept saying is Illinois needs to think out 10 years, 30 years, 100 years, because we can't keep reacting to the stimulus. We need to plan ahead. And we see the detriment when you're not planning ahead with this pandemic. We see the damage that occurs. And even with the CARES Act,
we know that this was something that caught a lot of people off guard. A lot of legislators knew it, but didn't have the information or whatever. But someone in those ranks should have said, hey, if this happens, this. And then once it happened, you know what we needed to do? We needed them to go, okay, sure, right away we need to do something, but halt for another 48 hours and put into place things that make sense going forward, helping and logical, because now we have all of these new issues that come up. And not that we would not have those issues to begin with, but fundamentally we need to be, and that it was great what they did, but it's the same thing. It's reactionary.
Well,
there wasn't too much progressive forward thought.
No, and none from our federal government. None.
That's
Zero.
What I'm saying.
Well, and the thing is that at least 80,000 of the deaths that we've had so far could have been prevented by action from the federal government. At least. So a majority of people would not have died. A majority of people would not have gotten sick.
A majority of people wouldn't be unemployed.
Right. The economy would still be humming along, and Trump would probably be reelected. But here we are in ruins, in tatters. Look at our country. And anytime I see somebody goes, oh, we were ready for a revolution. No, the American people were not ready for it. They need stability right now. That's why they picked Biden. That's why we need to vote for him. We need to respect the fact that that's where people are mentally. I know I need to wake up every morning and not go, what the hell happened last night while I was sleeping? What did he tweet about blow up at 3 o'clock in the morning when he was taking his 3 a.m. dump, Well, he's in his 70s. He probably had to pee. So his prostate's not working any longer. Because that's the majority of American men, of men, period. Just wait, Steve, we'll get there.
Talking about how to combat this third party, how to bring awareness to those folks, how to reach out, and why the insanity of saying people who have never voted, no matter who they are, because you're not worth voting, get to vote. What the hell?
Everybody.
Completely illogical argument. And you can start by really pushing this with those folks who are like, I'm voting third party. Great. We will help you build a third party after November 3rd.
Well, you know what? I would say to those third party people, tell me what your third party America looks like. Tell me what it looks like when your vote matters. Because it's not going to matter this time. But tell me what your third party America looks like. I want people to build it out more in their mind, because I told you I go on vacation all the time, and I think about when Al Gore won in 2000, and it was stolen from him by hanging chads in Florida. So, but I think about that. If he had been allowed to win that election like he did, we wouldn't have a global warming issue at all. We would not have had 9/11. We would not be at war, right? We would have a stable economy, and we'd probably have Medicare for all by now.
Well, I'm not going to go that far. I'm going to say we would be much farther along progressive-wise had it not fallen the way it did. But who knows what the hell would have happened in the world.
We would not have a climate crisis, and we would not be at war, period. Because
we wouldn't have a conservative court.
We would not have a conservative court. So that's how, and so sometimes when people argue with me this way, I take them back to that. What is the biggest existential crisis we have right now besides COVID-19? Climate. If 2000 had been done legitimately, we would not have a climate crisis, period. We would not. Gore would never have stood for it. He's a environmentalist after my own heart, because that's been like the cornerstone of my life, my entire life. Being raised the way I was and being an activist since I was 7 or 8 years old, you have to understand that when you look at something like that, that the votes and how votes are handled changes completely. It changes the flavor and pace of our country. If we think of the 8 years of Reconstruction, after the Civil War, and how that Band-Aid was ripped off to allow Jim Crow in, what a different country we developed after the Civil War because of votes. That's how important it is, and we cannot go back. We cannot go back. We can only go forward. Because the forward they're picturing of voting for Trump is horrifying to me. And it should be horrifying to everyone. We did not elect a king.
And I think we are going to do this, but we have to find something that we can have a good persuasive argument for those folks. And I think we did it here today, guys. But Heidi, our time is up.
I know.
If you like us, subscribe, share, like, follow.
And be back next Thursday.
Our gifts, our subscriber awards for our 100th episode. So every Tuesday and Thursday, we are live at 11 o'clock a.m. Central Standard Time. But you can catch us on Dumbcast anywhere you get your favorite podcasts. YouTube if you want to see my goofy faces and ridiculous gestures.
or me constantly drinking my beverage while we're talking.
Same.
So.
And we hope that you guys have tuned in and listened and learned something as well today. But we are going to be doing a very special episode coming up here, looking at how American values have changed in the Kardashian society. So tune in, like, subscribe, and share, and look for all of our upcoming candidates. If you're a candidate in a challenged race, Democratic race coming, or a challenged election coming
we don't care if you're running for school board, county board, governor, mayor, whatever race you're in, we want to hear from
Reach
you.
out to us.
County
We'd
chair.
love to talk to you.
This is your platform, baby. So give us a call, message us, and you can find all of our previous work at Heartland Mamas, MAMAS.com. And let's say goodbye now.
And as we say goodbye, I would like to say happy anniversary to my hubby.
Aww.
Today we have been married for 19 years.
Oh, happy anniversary.
Thank you. And I wouldn't be who I am today without him. I love you, Steve.
Oh, that's so sweet.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Take care now. Bye-bye.